It is memorial season, the time of the year that Jehovah's Witnesses go all out to invite newly interested ones and those who have left the fold to witness how they pass a glass of wine and plate of unleavened bread around the kingdom hall. And don't you dare take a sip of that glass or take a bite of that bread if you are not of the so-called anointed. Well, this is the first time since I have left the organization, which is 19 years ago, that I have been invited to a memorial as an apostate. Story time. Once each year, Jehovah's Witnesses commemorate the death of Jesus on Nisan 14, according to the Jewish calendar. This year, 2024, they are commemorating it on March the 24th. But before we get into the story of my invitation, it is no secret that I was and still am one of the most vocal critics and apostates here in South Africa with regard to the Jehovah's Witnesses. I have appeared in mainstream media, be it television, radio shows, and newspapers here in South Africa over the years. And we all know how the policy has changed recently concerning treating those who have been disfellowshipped. Witnesses are allowed to reach out to those who are disfellowshipped to encourage them back into the fold. But it comes with a caveat.
In imitation of Jehovah's mercy toward imperfect sinners, we want to reach out and help as many as possible to know that the door is open for them to come back to the congregation. If you are a disfellowshipped person listening to this update, we urge you to accept the efforts of the elders to help you return to the congregation. If you're living in an area where you don't know the local elders, please feel free to call or visit the local Kingdom Hall and request spiritual assistance. Jehovah wants you to come home, and we do too. In keeping with the scriptural admonition at 1 Corinthians 5:11, when a person has been removed from the congregation, we stop keeping company with that person, not even eating with such a man. That means we don't socialize with those who are removed from the congregation. However, that does not mean that a Christian could not invite a disfellowshipped person to attend a congregation meeting. That disfellowshipped person could be a relative, a former Bible student, or someone we were close to in the past. How appropriate this adjustment is at this time, as we're preparing for the most important meeting of the year, the memorial, which will be held on Sunday, March 24th. What if a disfellowshipped person comes to a congregation meeting? Under our current arrangement, we don't say a greeting to individuals who've been removed from the congregation. However, the governing body has decided that publishers can use their Bible-trained conscience to decide whether to give a simple greeting and welcome a disfellowshipped individual who attends a congregation meeting.
Hi, so good to see you here.
Thank you.
While we wouldn't have an extended conversation or socialize with such a person, we do not need to ignore him completely. That brings us to our third scripture. It's 2 John 9-11. There we read, "Everyone who pushes ahead and does not remain in the teaching of the Christ does not have God. The one who does remain in this teaching is the one who has both the Father and the Son. If anyone comes to you and does not bring this teaching, do not receive him into your homes or say a greeting to him, for the one who says a greeting to him is a sharer in his wicked works." But doesn't 2 John 9-11 tell us not to say a greeting to anyone who's been removed from the congregation? In examining the context of those verses, the governing body has concluded that the Apostle John was really describing apostates and others who actively promote wrong conduct. For good reason, John strongly directed Christians not even to greet such a person because of his contaminating influence. Therefore, if a disfellowshipped individual is a known apostate or someone who actively promotes wrongdoing, the elders would not visit him. Neither would individual Christians greet such a person or invite him to attend a congregation meeting.
Yes, apostates like me are not supposed to be contacted and encouraged to come back. So this morning, I ran into one of the local elders at the corner store. He immediately recognized me from a previous interaction we had at a local coffee shop where I was busy working on my laptop computer. At that interaction, he and his wife tried to invite me to the convention that was being held in the city. I knew who this elder was because just before I moved out of this town, he was asked to help at our local congregation. However, I did not get to know him on a personal level. I moved to another province and, of course, subsequently became one of the biggest apostates a few years later. And this man was notorious for disregarding people's boundaries. One incident that I was privy to was when he walked into a brother's home and kicked down the door to the brother's room where he was sleeping in to drag him to the Sunday meeting. He was one of those elders who was on a power trip. Back to the coffee interaction. I politely declined the invitation to the convention back then and explained my reasons. After discussing a few doctrinal issues surrounding the Bible and the Jehovah's Witnesses, he blurted out, quite a bit about the witnesses. I replied, yes, I have done a lot of study and research on organizations like the Jehovah's Witnesses, like the Mormons, and Scientology, amongst others. And they all operate the same way, I said. And after that encounter, I have not seen the couple again. Until this morning at the corner store. As I walked into the store, he recognized me and approached me with a huge smile on his face. Good morning, he said. Don't I know you from somewhere? He asked me. I said, yes, we met at a coffee shop a few months ago. Oh, I would like to invite you to our commemoration of Jesus' death at our Kingdom Hall tomorrow evening. As he handed me the invite, I said to him, I hear men are allowed to wear beards and women are allowed to wear pants to your meetings now. So I guess I will see quite a few bearded brothers and sisters in pants tomorrow, I replied. You could see the perplexed look on his face when I said that. I continued, I will not set foot in a Kingdom Hall. It is a patriarchal, misogynistic, and controlling system that breaks up families and ruins lives. Enjoy passing the glass of wine and bread around as nobody in your congregation professes to be anointed, I said. So I will decline your invitation. I must confess, I probably was a bit harsh in my response to the old man. I don't think he knows I'm an apostate or he has forgotten. However, I think it was necessary to make people like him aware that outside of their insular world, people are aware of their inner workings, their child sex abuse cover-ups, and their destructive shunning policies. And people like us are constantly bombarded by Jehovah's Witnesses in our comments section, berating us and calling us all sorts of names, calling us bitter apostates, mentally diseased, agents of Satan, etc. High-control religions and cults can inflict deep psychological and emotional wounds on their members. Yet for some who manage to escape these groups, the journey doesn't end there. Many ex-members become vocal activists, determined to expose the manipulative tactics of the groups they've left behind and prevent others from falling prey to the very same experiences. And these groups use a variety of techniques to control their members' thoughts, behaviors, and emotions. And this can include isolation from loved ones, sleep deprivation, information control, and financial exploitation. These tactics can lead to a profound sense of trauma, characterized by feelings of isolation, confusion, and a loss of identity. Leaving a high-control group is often difficult and an isolating experience. Ex-members may face ostracization from former friends and family who remain within the group. They may struggle to reintegrate into society after years of indoctrination. Additionally, the guilt and shame instilled by the group can be long-lasting. For some ex-members, activism becomes a way to heal from their experiences. Sharing their stories can be a cathartic process, allowing them to process the trauma and reclaim their narrative. The act of speaking out can also be a source of empowerment. By exposing these groups' tactics, they take back control of their story and challenge the power dynamics within the group. Despite the challenges, the activism of ex-members can have a significant impact. They can empower potential recruits to make informed decisions about joining. They can support law enforcement. Their insights can be invaluable for law enforcement agencies investigating high-control groups and religions and their activities. They can influence legislative change. Ex-member testimonies have played a vital role in shaping legislation and regulations that aim to protect potential victims. And they can help fellow survivors. By sharing their stories, ex-members can create a sense of community and support for other survivors aiding their healing journey. And it is because of activism and whistleblowing that organizations like the Jehovah's Witnesses are forced to change their policies and doctrines under the guise of new light.